topic of today's class, actually about requirements elicitations, first step of the project. So for the requirement elicitation, we will be probably spending, I would say, maybe 2 weeks on this topic, which is very first step of the development of any software in general. Okay, so the topic of discussion of the lecture today would be about the requirements elicitation, which is about gathering and collecting requirements from expected or potential users of the software. We were discussing all this in the introduction, and today we're going to focus on it. So, of course, when we talk about requirements elicitation, that actually includes both the functional and the non-functional requirements. We are going to cover them today. We will dive into the details of each of them, what is it, and so on. And also keep in mind that whatever we are learning, you are also going to do that for your own projects. And it's mainly for every software project. So this is a fundamental step. We will also today talk about data dictionary, since basically the expected user and the programmer, they have different languages. So this is why we do need this dictionary. And in general, the expected users, they don't know technical words so if you are talking, you can feel that if you are a software engineering person, even within our community and computer scientist, you are talking with someone with AI background, maybe you guys will have different perspectives, different words, so on. So imagine that between someone who's doing software engineer, or the team, and the user who probably is not even doing computer science. So it happens, and we are going to cover how we can solve this kind of issues, probably because it leads to a lot of misunderstandings, like I was explaining in the first chapter. So we need to provide this data direct dictionary, which simply just gives the definition of any technical word for the user. So later the user don't say, I was misunderstanding, or I don't know how I understood in that way. No, we need to make everything clear. So as part of the contract, because there will be a contract, that user generally they say, I want that thing, and then they keep changing their mind. So we need to fix that everything in a contract, and it's going to be prepared for our customers for collecting all of these requirements. Then after that, so we will try to validate these requirements with the customer. So once he is saying that's okay, we're going to make sure that we completed the collection of all the potential requirements, making sure that there are no inconsistencies or some problems, okay, so on. And finally, we can provide what we call a prototype, okay? And mainly a prototype is essentially a mock-up of the user interface. So the future user will understand it's going to look like how. And so it's kind of, this prototype usually serves as a draft version that we can share with the user, as I mentioned. And why we do share our prototype with the user mainly is to give them an overview of the how the system might look, okay? It also helps demonstrate how the collected requirements are being translated into the design, giving both of them or the development team and the user a clearer idea of what the final software will look like. So based on that, the user can provide more feedback if needed, and so on. And so in practice too, you can have kind of a hands-on experience on that, okay? So let's start with this kind of motivation. So probably some of you may think, why we actually need to do gathering of the requirements? Makes sense to ask that question. Why we have to spend a long time in general going back and forth with the user to try to understand these requirements and making sure that they complete unknown expectation of the user. So in your project, most of the time you will spend in this phase. So we are here to answer with this question before you start. So here are a few examples that you can see. Like, for example, these are like some real objects, okay? They are real world objects. And like, for example, the chair or the cup, red cup. And you can see that all of these like products in the slide that you cannot probably use them. So in practice, and the reason for that probably the design looks nice, okay, but it will not be useful. So for you as a human being, to use a cup like that, so imagine you're drinking from here, hold it from me, on this. Is it kind of useful? Absolutely, it is not useful. And as a human being, you won't feel like happy to use that. Also for the chair. So it's kind of, it's looking uncomfortable. So I don't think that any of you wants to like spend watching software engineering class sitting on that chair. So the same thing happened in the software world, okay? If you gather the wrong requirements, basically we are wasting our money as a company. Also, you could be wasting your time as a group or a team. And even the customer, if your product is like commercialized, then even the customer will not be happy with the final product because you are designing probably something that will not be useful for his context, okay? Because usually we want things that are useful. So who's going to use your software if it's useless, okay? So when we talk about requirement specification and elicitation, in general, it has several steps, okay? And as part of the life cycle, and of course, the topic of the lecture today would be about these steps of requirement specification, okay? So we are not talking yet about the design or the implementation, testing, and all that phases. No, we are still at the very first step. We are still in the start, okay? So during this requirement specification, the very first step is about the solicitation of requirements. And then what happens is to review those like requirements, okay? So it's like kind of you are exploring what you are going to do. You need to understand yourself and you need to explain to your user. You both must agree about that thing. And it's exactly that. So we're still not diving into the practical development or coding things. Or no, we are still in the start, okay? So the idea is after reviewing the requirements, what we do is that we are having like kind of different documents that specify like the contract between you as a software company and your potential customers, and also documenting all the collected requirements that you probably got like you think that these requirements are important, or you are like suggesting some new requirements. So mainly you are here thinking about the project, how it's going to be or to what problem is going to address. It's like how, okay? So we are now having this set of requirements, and from the very beginning we are clear with our customer, and we try to validate these requirements together, okay? So we'll be spending probably a couple of weeks, probably 1-2 weeks on this stage. Because it's actually including all these different steps, the requirement specification, okay? And also how we can actually generate the whole document, including design diagram, and all the documents that are kind of the output from the requirement specification phase. How we can do that? It's actually mainly about writing everything in the document and including all the different steps on how to create or how to define these different sub-steps of the requirement allocations. So try to be as clear as possible, and also how we can actually generate the whole document, including the design diagrams for use cases in case later. So we try to gather all this information we try to document that. And so now we have our software requirements specification. Okay? Is that okay? So I wish that it's clear. And in case you don't understand something, please don't never hesitate to contact me or use our discussion, okay, even comments or whatever. So now let's discuss our project mission statement, okay? So when we talk about requirements in general, one of the very first steps to start with is to represent the requirement elicitation, which is to actually think about what is the mission of the project. So you are going to choose your project. So what is the main goal, mission, or like what you want from with this project? So, and when we talk about the mission statement, it's generally like it's about what we want to accomplish in the mission mainly, okay? So let's take the example of some big companies, and like, for example, we have Google or BMW, Apple, and so on. Okay, the main mission now for Google mainly, it's like, for instance, is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful, okay? This is the mission of Google. For BMW, for example, the main mission is like to be the world leading provider of premium product and premium services for individual like mobility. So the goal of like defining the mission statement of the project is to kind of define the overall scope of the output of your project in just few words. So the document is very long, but in this document you need to somehow try to be clear, try to be specific, and you try to mention your, like I would say, mission clearly. For your project, you're going to do this. So you will think about the project, while even I'm teaching, always try to map this theoretical knowledge I'm telling you to your own project. And so later you are like having the clear idea. If the idea of the project is coming, like you are going to create a website for this or that reason, then your mission is clear, okay? So now any project in general should have a mission, okay? And so we have a mission, like the idea is to describe it as a set within 2 or maximum, I would say 3 sentences, okay? To make it clear and short. So basically, when we try to define these 3 sentences, I would say, we are defining the mission. So we have to answer 3 main questions. So in 1 sentence, 3 sentences, or even 2, you will have the answer to these 3 questions. So the first question is, what's the problem that we want to address? So you and your team need to figure out some problem, and you ask, what's the problem that we want to address? What is the scope of this problem? What are the limits? Okay. Also, you can answer the question like, who are the stakeholders? And I mean, who are the potential users of this project? Okay, so if you're answering these questions, then you have a clear like answer or draft, I would say, of your project mission. You keep like rewriting that mission. Now we have tools, ChatGPT, and I do encourage the use of generative AI in my class. So we want it to be nice and clear, addressing or answering this question, okay? And finally, we will like, we need also to mention another question, which is very important in your in your mission, which is, what will be the benefit and the outcome of the project, okay? So the 3 questions: the problem, stakeholders, and final outcome or benefit of the project, okay? And so you can see here is just one example and of a project statement, like for a GoFast team. So the GoFast team will develop a website that enable airline travelers to rate their travel experiences. The project will be considered complete when the website has been tested and approved for release by the organization, and it actually supports their objective to ensure air passengers can openly compare airlines. So you can see out of these 3 sentences, we answered what's the problem which is addressing. And also we answered who are the stakeholders or users and developers and involved like people, and what is the main benefit. So of course you were thinking about the best practices to make sure that you can make good mission statement, right? So in this case, after defining this mission statement, we suppose that we are doing it by hook or crook. We are having a finally, I would say I'm going to join your teams while you will be working, and I will see you guys celebrating, happy. Oh, we are having a mission. Now, after defining that mission statement, the next step is to try to do some listening of the stakeholders based on the need and the desires. Through what? Through like you're going to try to understand, like I would say best understand of what's the problem or what is the, you try to understand the problem, and also you try to also not only understand, you understand very well the problem that you are going to address, and actually why do you need this to address this problem. Like they need to have different means. Okay, so in order to actually understand better the expectations of your customers, you can actually conduct interviews, and interviews are very effective. Discussion is always effective, and you have your own questions and you don't know, like it's not clear. So the best thing is to like have a meeting or to like interview your user and clearly ask him. So it will be a good way to understand the requirements. Okay. And also it's better to have the face-to-face interviews, okay? And you can also have sometimes observations. For example, if you want to build software, for example, to automate some of the existing tasks or let's say processes and manufacturing. So we can go as programmers and simplify and just make things as simple as possible. So we go watch how this process is actually done manually. And then we can try to elicitate the requirements to automate all the steps. So understanding sometimes, for example, let's suppose your app is to automate like kind of storing the data. It's going to be within some information system. And so this is taking it from addressing a real problem. From that archives were a lot of papers, documents, like physical, real like papers and all. And people are doing data entry. So as a developer, sometimes to understand these things, you need really to go there and see people and watch people, how they are like trying manually to solve this without any software thing. So then within your software, with this mindset, you are going to be able to do something great. So we may also organize workshops or product studies if we find that the number of stakeholders is high. So we can bring them all together and think about the final requirements, okay, of our project. And of course, another like important point, it's like important during the elicitation process, like to provide the prototype, okay, and to like have kind of mock-up interface where like we just show the user interface or graphical user interface and getting their feedback of potential users, because like things like work, like we need to listen from the users all the time. Even we don't need to waste the idea of this class. It's mainly like you will not jump implementing things and you have an app, then you show to the user, then he is rating it, giving you very bad feedback. It's the worst app ever. Now, what you need from the start to try to create some mock-up, some interface. You're not creating the interface. You are just showing them that how it's going to look like without wasting all the time and efforts. So like this, with the prototype, you are like able to understand things in early stage. If you need to fix, or if you need to like make some changes or refactorings. Okay, so when we talk about requirement elicitation, there are two types of requirements in general. Okay, the functional requirements and the non-functional requirements. Okay, so this is what we are going to understand today really like well, and we need at the end of this video try to ask yourself, what is the difference between functional requirements and non-functional requirements? Okay, if you will be able to answer this question, then everything is good with you. No, so both of them mainly are we use these two terms whenever we are like trying to find our requirements, the software product requirements. Okay, while like trying to figure out the functionalities of our software, we find some functionalities like they are fundamental. I will say they are like functional requirements. Other functionalities, they are, it won't bother like if you are ignoring them at some point. After all, it will not make your, for example, stop the mission from your app. The mission is there, the main goal is there, but it's kind of minor things, okay? So let me try to explain that more. So there are the non-functional requirements that don't actually represent the actual feature of the project. So it's mainly your project is not designed, for example, to save battery. No, we are designing an app, for example, to manage students, I don't know, schedule or Discord app. It's not the battery is the main objective, or memory, or size, or execution time. The main objective is what this app really does, okay? So in this case, if this is you ask yourself, is it fundamental for my app? No, if not, then it's a non-functional requirement, okay? So all like kind of non-functional requirements that are not related to the features of the final product. So when we talk about functional requirements now, it could be, for example, your software should provide sounds, for example, or like should provide music. It's a must, okay? Whenever actions are taken, so you must be having the sound. Otherwise, it's not working right. It's not functioning right. So this is functional. It's a fundamental thing. If it's not there, then it's a problem with your software. Okay, so software should, for example, support distributed environments when you have multiple teams working together. So this is more of functionalities or like related to the system. For example, if you have an online system, I would say, for library project management. Okay, you have a library and you're going to manage things related to that. And a feature should be the ability to log in and access the system. Okay, another feature is the ability to search for books in the online library. So these are two actual features of the system. They are a must. They must be there in your final app. So they are functional requirements. And again, you may have some non-functional features as well, okay? If in this app would be having big size, but still it's working, it's doing the job, and the people are like able to find the books online and so on. Okay, even it's slow, it can bother, but if we are fixing these non-functional things, requirements, it will make your app goes towards perfection, okay? Means it's really good to have them, but if you don't have them, still you have your app is there, okay? This is the main difference. And however, for functional requirements, if you miss one of them, you will face a lot of anger from user side. So what are you doing, man? Okay. So for development teams in general, you are always, excited to implement these features. I know. And because they are, well, they're mainly always, I think that as a programmer, I am actually paid to implement these features. And you know how programmers, they face in general a lot of difficulties. So mainly the difficulties that programmers can face are, just pause the video and let me know what could be as a programmer who's exciting about doing your job. What main issue you can face? Make you feel like this. See this one. Wow. Okay. So it's like not meeting the deadlines, missing the deadlines, and all these problems the engineer could face. Okay. So these are very serious problems. Okay. And to meet the release deadlines and so on, it's really very difficult. You will feel this in your team whenever the deadline is approaching to give your final presentation for the project. Doesn't mean I'm saying something, but in life, even we need to enjoy the journey. So this stress, and then there is a final presentation, which is nice, it's part of the process. So it's very normal. You are going to spend a lot of time understanding the requirement phase, then you will not find that time for that thing. And all this it's happening like this in the professional life if you're going to be a software engineer. So it's like this. It's about managing all these details. Okay, so when we talk about functional requirements in general, you need to have a programmer that need to implement these features. And okay, so the problem now with the programmer is, first of all, we discussed about their backgrounds and all, and they also need to implement these features. And so it's very hard, for example, to automate the implementation of code that is related to functional requirements. But when we talk, for example, on non-functional requirements like the execution time, probably memory usage, it's possible to automate this process by using some of the existing software tools or that can actually refactor your code, and they can actually improve and optimize the memory uses and so on. Because the functional requirements are something unique to your problem, to your project, to your idea. So this is why it's very difficult to solve that. But the non-functional requirements, they are easy to address because they are common, and there are even tools to automate addressing that. Is that clear? Oh, so okay, when I talk about the non-functional requirements, so that means the delay, for example, time. So it's better as a software company in general to provide different tools that can do the monitoring of the quality of the project to make sure that your customer is happy and less stressful for your team project. So also we can conclude that most of these non-functional requirements, they could be in general simply automated. Okay. What else now? Okay, so if these non-functional requirements are not in general automated, imagine it. What can happen? We can see through this side of the result because it shows how serious it is, okay? And so it's like that. Okay, now the machine can optimize those non-functional requirements, and we can conclude that non-functional requirements, or we can call it testing. It is kind of defined as type of software testing to check non-functional aspects such as performance, usability, reliability of your software, okay? And so to summarize, we have two types of functional and non-functional requirements. For functional requirements, they try in general to describe the interaction between the system and the environment to my program inputs and outputs, okay? Basically, the things that the system must do, as I was discussing the problem of the library, like management, for example. Also, non-functional requirements now the problem. They describe the properties or the characteristics that system must have that is not directly related to functional behavior of the system. And like we discuss it, such as extension time, we also can discuss the memory usage and so on. Okay, so mainly this is like for the functional analysis. Now here are some few examples of functional requirements. Okay, so the function requirements could be, for example, the library member. He must be able to search the library catalog. Okay, the bank customers, for example, they must be able to withdraw cash from the ATM. It could be like amount of information to be processing. For example, the system must display the current time in 24 hours format. The system must display the temperature in degree. All these are examples. It could be as well interface with other system, like the system must be able to use Wi-Fi to communicate all transactions with clients to secure database. So these are all about functional requirements, and again, about the main features that the system and the program must do. Okay? Yep. So we have also some non-functional requirements, and these non-functional requirements, they are more about usability for example, how easy is like for the user to use your interface, or how easy is your user interface after all, because using the user interface, for example, is one of the main factors that users may care about it. So you need to make sure that your system is easy to use, but this is still non-functional requirements because it's not related to the features of the system reliability. For example, like if the system has errors. So how much time your system would run, even when you have errors, running in the program. So the reliability is very important for security perspective. Okay, and performance also. Performance is mainly what we discuss, like when it comes to execution time, when it comes, for example, to memory usage and so on. Also, we need to address response time, how quickly the system reacts to user input, also throughput, and how much work like the system can accomplish within a specific amount of time. So supportability as well. It's more related, like for example, to what we say, to the database that must be changeable with other type of products and support and so on. So it's more about the flexibility to improve your system over time, and all these are like kind of part of the non-functional requirements of your system. Okay, that's it for this week. So thank you so much, and just stay tuned and try to finish your practices on time. So now we will be moving a little bit quickly, and so I wish you are going to enjoy this journey and learn a lot. Thank you for watching.